When I'm in the thick of it, a lot of times it's like it's an adrenaline rush for about a week straight, and it's hard to maintain a semblance of the rest of your life. And that's why I think it's really challenging. I know for people that you have a full-time job and they're trying to put on a race. That's wild. Hello, welcome to episode 7 of the Trail Currents podcast. I'm Jamil Coury.
I'm Jubilee Paige.
And this is the show that takes a deep dive into topics making waves in the running world.
Doop.
Cue music intro that we do not have. Yeah. It should just be a beer cracking open.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Could be my dog's jingle. Oh, it's a little weird, though.
So welcome back, guys. We're moving right along. We're just squeezing in this one before the Whiskey Basin trail runs that are coming up this weekend in Prescott that Airavata running, our company, is organizing.
Yep.
Which got us thinking about our topic.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to that, we want to thank this week's sponsor of the show.
Oh, my. Squirrel's Nut Butter.
And it ain't the kind that you eat.
No.
When I first heard of this company, immediately it comes to mind because you think Justin's Nut Butter. They've like cornered the market on that phrase, but I think the tide is turning.
It's not it's not like it's not a nut butter you eat. However, you could.
I think technically you could
slap it on a cracker.
It's all natural.
It's all natural
and edible.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think it's edible, so don't listen to what I'm saying. But in reality, this company was founded by Chris Thornley and his family in Prescott, Arizona.
No, in Prescott? Flagstaff.
Oh, gosh. I am still in
Whiskey
Basin mode. Flagstaff, Arizona, excuse me. And family-owned company. And they came up with an anti-chafe salve that is really a miracle worker. Yeah. No, I'm not even overstating it. And obviously they are sponsoring this show, but I really speak from someone who's used this product and had really good luck with it. Yeah. And it not only prevents the chafing, but it like really does heal you.
Yes.
I've literally had it heal my back, like when I had a really bad chafe and it's red and irritated, and by the end it looked better than it did mid-race, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And what I like is we've got a few of the products. If you guys are tuning in to the YouTube show right here, their main one, like for the first like year or so, they just had the one product, Squirrel's Nut Butter, all natural. This thing is made with coconut oil, cocoa butter, beeswax, vitamin E oil, and you really kind of I've come to love the smell.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. And but they've expanded recently with a bunch of new products, which I just got my hands on for the first time for quite a few of them. I haven't used all of them yet, but it's pretty cool. They have now a vegan formula. That's what this one with like the more orange label on it. And that one it eliminates the beeswax, which some people, I mean, I do eat plant-based diet, consider myself mostly vegan, but you know, I was using the original Squirrel's Nut Butter, but it's cool to have one that is. It's really neat. So it uses candelilla wax, and I probably said that incorrectly, so that's okay though. They've also got now a
Happy Toes
foot salve, so you can put that on your feet, and it's got some other peppermint and tea tree oil in it. And this is their newest one. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah.
And this is a vegan formula too.
Yeah, it's called Born to Rub, and it actually has arnica and chiltepine. Chiltepines are this little spicy goodness out of the Copper Canyons from Mexico. You can hear a little bit of the story from Born to Run, the book, but they partnered, I believe, to use chiltepines in this as part of their ingredients. Yeah.
And that was a collaboration with Mas Karima, which
Mas Karima.
another local company that makes nutrition products from the Copper Canyons as
Yep.
well.
So it's a natural heated product. So like when you put it on, if you have like sore muscles or anything like that, it actually heats up and relieves like strained muscles, sore muscles, things like that. So that's brand new.
The other thing I love about this company is their heart and soul is in the sport, and it's in helping people. And you can see that most evident by their community involvement.
They volunteer.
You see Thornley and his family out at so many races. They come to a lot of ours and volunteer at aid stations, and they're out there relieving people's pain on course, because we all have pain as ultra runners, as you know, and we can use all the help we can get. So
there are a lot of our races. They have regular lube stations at most of our ultras.
So if you want to check out some of their products and kind of move on past I think Vaseline can be somewhat effective, but it's not going to heal you. It can maybe prevent, but this stuff just goes beyond.
This stuff goes beyond. And it's not just, I mean, it's anti-chafe, but like people use it for so many different things too.
It was originally created, I think, to heal some skin issues that they had in their family. Okay. And then they determined that, hey, this also works really well for this other use.
For anti-chafe. And it's, I mean, it's great, but like, you know, I go out and I get sunburnt and I put it on my sunburn and it's fantastic. Or I'll put it on chapped lips, or I use it to remove makeup. So, I mean, like the uses are just, I think you can go online and actually just, there's a list of things you can use this for on a daily basis.
My kid likes putting it on his arms.
Really?
Which is really funny, yeah. So anyways, go ahead and check it out. Go over to squirrelsnutbutter.com. Enter our special code, TCPSNB. That's Trail Currents Podcast, Squirrels Nut Butter. So TCPSNB for 25% discount. And that is good through May 30th of 2018. So you have quite a bit of time to go check it out. Go check out some of their new products and let us know what you think, honestly.
Yeah.
We love hearing about it. So thank you to them for supporting the show. But let's move on to tonight's topic. Did you say hold on?
No, I said I love it. Love it.
So let's move on to tonight's show. And the topic is, what's it really like being a race director?
Oh my.
So we just wanted to open up a little conversation here, since, well, I've been doing this since 2008. So that's like over
a decade.
It's over a decade, probably over a decade. And you are fairly new to race directing.
Yep.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to ask you some questions specifically. And then we're going to go to some listener questions, actually. We went to Twitter this week, something new.
Let's do it.
And I asked for some questions ahead of time, and quite a few have come in the past hour. So
cool.
Let's just start off with, when did you officially start directing races for Airavata? You've been with the company for a while longer.
Yeah. I started as a office manager and then moved into race directing last year, officially.
And what was your first event that you directed?
I mean, I've been kind of organizing and helping on a major scale since, I guess, for the last year. I think Black Canyon and Whiskey Basin, Crown King last year, I had a big hand in. My first one without any help or anything like that, that was Jackrabbit Jubilee. I was handed that. And then major race was Javelin 100. I think that's where I just kind of really fully grasped the pressures and all of the responsibility of directing a race.
So what's that like? Because I know a lot of us run a race, and a lot of times you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Can you explain a little bit, like, is it like the tip of the iceberg? Are runners just seeing that very bit, and there's like so much beneath all that comes together?
Yeah, for sure. Races, we start planning races, thinking about the permits and everything, for a year. and then really start after opening registration, like 6 to 8 months out. That's when like we start preparing everything and everything that goes into it. So it's several months of work. And then the race day is, everything that's kind of come together, and it's all, packaged with a pretty bow, and you don't see like all of the many hours and months and weeks and sleepless nights that go into preparing for big races.
I had a great follow-up question, and then it just evaporated.
It just kind of like went out of your brain.
Yeah, what is it's gone. Wow. Wow, you were just talking about it was really good too.
Just like the months of prep work. Going into details about, like, it's not just like the permitting process takes a little bit of time. You're working with, for a lot of our races, we work with multiple land agencies. Because, for ultras, you run through hundreds of miles, 50 miles, whatever it is. So you're dealing with like a city or Forest Service or BLM or even private property. We've run into that kind of thing. So it's just kind of making the course happen, first of all. And then once all that's approved, it's all the logistics of planning. It's, getting your equipment and your like registration in order. You want to make sure that, all of the runners on race day are safe. They have what they need. They have the water that they need. You're doing the math to calculate for nutrition, water, ice. I personally think we spoil our runners with having ice on the course. It's something that I think kind of like.
Well, granted,
it's a bonus,
I think
right?
the summer events we pretty much have to
Absolutely,
in Arizona. But
yeah.
Sometimes it is definitely.
It's really interesting. Like when we talk about supporting runners, it's really not like the easiest thing in the world. You have to calculate. Every little need that they could possibly have while on course. And these people, they put in a lot of hours. They put in a lot of, early mornings, a lot of miles. They work hard to come to your start line and, chase after a goal that they've had maybe for months and or years. They put it on their bucket list, and they said, someday I'm going to run 100 miles. Someday I'm going to run 50 miles. And they put in all that work, and they expect it at race day for everything to kind of be there and, to be able to support their dreams and their goals. All of these little things have to go into it.
And not everything, you can't just prepare everything like 4 months in advance. A lot of it does come together race week or, within, it's like it kind of stacks up in the few days before. There's a lot of orchestration of people and equipment and all these moving parts. And it kind of all has to come together. Mm-hmm. And then like inevitably stuff goes not according to plan.
I mean, you can plan and plan and plan. You can have everything in line. And, there's always a wrench that can be thrown into it. Weather is a huge factor. Especially in Arizona, we're constantly watching the forecasts to see how much, whether the sun is going to play a factor. A lot of our courses are exposed, so you have to calculate, is there going to be more water at a certain station midday? Is this station remote? How easy is it to get to that station? Do we have to pack in all of the water and anticipated ice beforehand? Because if they run out, there's no way for us to get there in a timely manner. So it's all of these things that you kind of have to think about and like orchestrate. Like I like that word.
When you have to have a lot of times backup plans.
You do,
because you have a really good plan, and then something happens, and you have to have some systems in place to have a safe event for people out there.
I mean, we saw that,
respond to situations, and that's I think you can't get too down on yourself when things come up, because with sometimes hundreds of runners, something is going to go wrong for someone somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of being as prepared as possible for the whole situation of what's happening. So
yeah, I mean, it's, you do all the planning ahead of time, and then a big part of it is maintaining on race day, and any little thing that comes up, you kind of have to make very quick decisions, whether it's a medical or if it's, logistics of getting supply out to somewhere, if it's picking up dropped runners, if it's, just anything and everything.
Do you have a biggest stress going into a race? Like, what's your biggest stress or fear, maybe?
I don't know if I have one singular stress. It's just kind of, it's layered, it's an onion of stress, really. It's like all of these little layers that you peel back, and you're like, oh, you have to be prepared for all these little things. And, even like down to the course markings, you can plan the course, you can make sure that, you have flagging, you have pin flags, you have posted markers everywhere. And then, race day, somebody turns the sign the wrong way and people get off course, stuff like that happens. You just have to be prepared for it.
What's that feeling like as a race director, and you hear the lead runners just came in the wrong way?
I mean, it's heartbreaking. I remember that, I think, from Whiskey Basin last year. It happened. Some markers were actually switched on the trail, and lead runners got off course, and they actually made up time, which was amazing to see. But I mean, it's just like your heart sinks. You're like, oh. And
well, like you said, sometimes, I mean, for some people, I think they run a lot of races. It can be kind of routine.
Yeah.
But for some people, it might be literally their bucket list item to run a certain race.
Yeah.
And if it's hard to get into, sometimes it can be a lot of pressure, I think, which can be motivating, because you don't want to screw it up for them. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to have the best possible experience, which is a good thing, but also keeps you on your toes. And I mean, I've had nightmares.
Oh, I have sleepless nights.
Stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I didn't actually know, kind of the stresses and what it would do to me once I kind of got into this profession. But certainly know now that, you build all of these anxieties and all these fears, and then you go to bed at night and you wake up and like, it's just like, oh crap, and I've got to think about something else. But it's like you mentioned experience, and like that's really what's important for me. You plan all these things to make sure that everybody is safe and they have what they need on race day. But then, for me, it's also about their experience, and I want to make sure that, all of these things are in line so that they do, have something really positive to say at the end of their race. You get them to the finish line, they get themselves to the finish line with a little help and support, and hopefully like their experience of the race, that is a positive one, and they tell their friends or they want to come back to it. And it's what I see with like Crown King, people choose that race as their first 50K or their first ultra.
Their introduction to the sport.
Their introduction, and it's a doozy of an introduction. And it's such a remote race, and it's so hard to support and get aid stations where they need to be, because like that road is just, you can't drive it. So getting volunteers out there, getting your supply out there, getting water out there, marking that course is about as difficult as it gets. And, I told runners this year that, it's one foot in front of the other, and after mile 15, it's like really a slim chance of us getting to you. So you kind of have to make this conscious decision to keep going. And, we had a really high finish rate this year and with positive feedback. And it's just that experience of like, okay, I'm going to go on, I'm going to push on and finish this race. And then that end experience is kind of what they were chasing. And it's cool to see. Like, that's my cherry at the end of all of it too. Like, to see people achieve their goals. So, yeah.
So walk us through this week. It's race week.
Yeah.
Are you sleeping at all? What's going on? What's going through your head? And yeah, how does it affect everything? Because I know for me, when I'm in the thick of it, a lot of times it's like,
yeah,
it's an adrenaline rush for about a week straight, and it's hard to maintain a semblance of the rest of your life. And that's why I think it's really challenging. I know for people that you have a full-time job and they're trying to put on a race. That's wild.
That's really impressive. Like, my full-time job is putting on races, and the fact that we do so many races a year is pretty awesome. But for other race directors to have a full-time job, or even for me, it's amazing that they have family and that they do this as well. Because I'm the biggest scatterbrain when it comes to the 2 weeks leading into the race. I don't know anything about my own schedule. I don't know what day it is. I don't know, that I told my brother that I was going to meet him for yoga at whatever day. And it goes out of my brain.
You're just in the race zone.
And I have to be. It's, because at any random part of the day, something pops in my mind, and then I have to make a mental note, or I have to write it down. And usually if I don't write it down, then it comes back and bites me 3 days before the race. And I'm like, so it's, all these little details that rush through my head. The week leading up to it, it's just, you plan all these things months ahead and in advance, but you go back and you want to double check and triple check that everything is in line. For Whiskey Basin, it's, when are the shirts coming in? When are the awards coming in? When are the bibs coming in? Who do we have on schedule to chip and code and do all the bibs? Then I have to assign all of the elite numbers or seeded numbers, and then I from there I build a list, and then I've got equipments, and then I've got crew coming in to pack, and then I've got crew coming in to stage and then pack the truck on a different day, and then I'm preparing course marking, and then
and then you finally get out there and get to help course mark. And then does it a little bit of the stress go away when you actually arrive on site?
A little bit. I have multiple breakdowns and little tiny anxieties, and this I describe to Haley, I think the last couple of races, I have this tiny little ball of stress at the beginning of the week, and all of these little things that I'm making sure that I have in line. And then, Patty Curry actually reminds me every week. She's like, it's just forward motion at this point. It's already in motion. It's already going. You just have to go.
We're also already doing an ultra. You're also doing an ultra already for relentless forward progress.
Relentless forward progress. It's months of preparation. It's sleepless nights. It's early mornings. It's all of the things. And, you get to race week, and then 3 days before the race, then you get out on course and you spend 6 to 8 hours marking the course. And it's my time. It's for me, for Black Canyon, for Crown King, it's my time to breathe a little bit. I'm not at my desk. I'm not checking emails. I'm not, answering 1,000 different questions from, about the race. It's okay, we're here. It's going. So we mark the course. Next day we set up. Runners arrive to pick up their bibs, and then I'm in it. So race day for me is the reward. It's I mean, I hope it is the same for every ultra runner that comes to our races, that, you know, you do the work, you stress a little bit, but you put in the time, and on race day, you're there, you're ready, you do it, it all comes together. Somehow it comes together. And, you know, if there are little things that arise during the race, you know, little struggles, up and downs, for race directors, for ultra runners alike, you deal with it, you move on, and then somehow, yeah.
For me, it's always
Everybody
interesting
wins.
because it's like this thing kind of exists in your head.
Yeah.
All like the special event industry, it's like you have an idea of how you want it to go,
Yeah.
and you're planning and you orchestrate. There's that word again. You orchestrate all these different things. And then for me, the stress it does go down a little bit when you actually hit the wheels down on the ground and you actually get out there.
Yeah.
Because you feel like, okay, it's starting to come together now.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it taking shape. And that's always a great feeling.
Yeah.
And getting out there, I think that's awesome. Getting out on course as the race director. And because I know we do have a lot of different people doing a lot of different jobs, but it helps, I think, really connect you with the event. And it's like, hey, this is what it's all about.
For me to see the trail too, like it's really important for me to.
And it kind of just reminds you, because you can, you know, when you're in the early stages of planning for an event, maybe you're planning the course and you're scouting out a location and taking in the views, and you're kind of just you're envisioning what this could be.
Yeah.
And what experience this will provide for people.
Yeah.
And then you may not get back to that area, maybe not even till the race, but maybe not till race week, and it could be months or whatever. Nice. And then it's just so cool to reconnect and be like, oh yeah, this is because you've been buried at your computer or whatever. Yeah. You're like, this is why we do it. This is why people want to come and be a part of this. And then once it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I mean, that was my experience at Black Canyon once I got on the course, and I think I marked, you know, about 20 miles of the course. But it was just such a great day because, you know, it was raining a little bit and it was wetting the track. And like I imagined, I mean, it was a couple days before, but I was imagining like, it's perfect that it's raining because it's going to damp down the track, and it's going to green up the desert, and people are going to experience like this section of the trail like in the most beautiful way. And I was really excited for every runner that was going to run that in a couple of days. And I mean, it was the same thing with Crown King, and I know it's going to be the same thing when I get out on Thursday for the Prescott Circle Trail, because it's such a beautiful course, and I'm excited about like the section that I'm marking. And but it's just the behind the scenes is a lot. It's just a lot of work. I think I've told you before that it's one of the most difficult jobs I've ever loved. And I mean, it continues to be true.
Let's do just a quick plug for the race. You want to talk about it? And we got, for the YouTube viewers, we have a couple props. So do you want to just give us like a minute of what it's about, and then we're going to go into our Q&A that we got from our Twitter feed.
Cool. Yeah. So Whiskey Basin Trail Runs, it's this premier race in Prescott, Arizona. Prescott is a little bit of a northern northern town in Arizona. It features high desert, thick junipers and the granite dells. It starts Ponderosa Pine Forest. It starts and it goes through several lakes, and it starts and ends at Watson Lake. We feature 4 different race distances up to an 88K, which is about 54 miles. It's the entire Prescott Circle Trail, and that's what I love about it. It's one singular loop that actually surrounds the entire city and goes through a varying terrain. You get to see mountains, you get to go through creeks, by lakes, through tall grasses. It's really so beautiful. And then, you know, we go 56K, 31K, 10K, really pretty spectacular. And it's actually part of a series, what we call the Whiskey Man series. There are 3 different whiskey, like themed,
inspired
events in Prescott, including
Prescott's kind of an endurance town in Arizona.
Yeah, I think they've
like latched onto that.
Yeah,
which is cool.
So we have the trail run. There's a Whiskey Row marathon. That's not an easy marathon, and then there's a bike race as well. If you do all 3 of the highest distances.
So 88K trail run.
Yeah.
You skip 1 week, then you go right into the 50-mile mountain bike race, and then 1 week right after that. So it's within a 3-week span. You get 1 weekend off, but you do the Whiskey Row Marathon, which was my first marathon. Quote, I put it in quotes because it's like on dirt roads and it climbs a couple thousand feet.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not a road marathon tour through a city. Yeah. It's rough. You earn the whiskey name. So
if you do all 3 of those, you are dubbed Whiskey Man or Whiskey Woman.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
and we're sponsored this year by the local whiskey distillery, Thumbview Distillery. So our top prizes are bottles of whiskey, which is really exciting. But just such a beautiful race. I'm really excited for all the runners that are coming out. And I think we've sold out the 10K. We only have a few spots left. So
awesome.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a good race.
So let's get to some questions here. We're just going to give this a try. We went to Twitter. And so if you don't follow us on Twitter, then you won't know when this happens. So check it out. At Jamil Coury and at Happy Jubilee, but she doesn't really go on Twitter. So
I'm the worst.
Just talk to me on Twitter.
I really am.
Feel free to message me if you guys have any questions. We'll try and I usually get back to you pretty quick. Carrie A at Fly Free Carrie. How far in advance do you start planning for a race, especially a new one? What's the first step? That's awesome. I mean, you touched on it earlier. Usually for a pre-existing race or a reoccurring one, it is about a year-long process where you kind of have to wrap up the previous year, and then we submit our permits typically right away, like 1 year in advance. We want to get our dates set. Sometimes we have our dates set as a multi-year permit. We have several multi-year permits, so that's kind of the first step for us. And then it's just a matter of kind of going through the proverbial checklist, updating the website and all that. But for something that's new, which that's been my focus lately. We're kind of redoing a couple of races, but I've got some new stuff in the works as well. Basically, I mean, my first step is what's the inspiration and what's the experience and why? Like, why would we want to come here and share this area, and what type of experience do we want to offer? That's kind of where I start. And a lot of times it has to do with, sometimes it has to do with, well, this is an easy area to permit, but more often, and sometimes that happens, but we don't shy away from challenges. And especially now, I think now that we have, our organization has a lot of experience, we want to seek out, even if it's really difficult. I like challenges and, why would this be an amazing destination area to come visit? Has anyone ever run through this area before, and what would that provide? So, and beyond that, I guess if you're looking for a step, then it's kind of like planning out a route and finding out who the land agencies are, the landowners, and talking to them and kind of coming up with your operating plan and, how's it going to work? How's the course going to be laid out? Where your aid station is going to be? What are your different plans for communications, for medical, for emergency response, for everything? What's your crew plan? How are they going to be able to get around? And then, there's a lot that goes into it. What happens if it rains? What happens if it's 110 degrees? So, follow-up question, most hilarious RDing memory? Got anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do. Immediately. For me, it was maybe not this last year, 2017, but maybe 2016, maybe it was 2017. I stayed out at the Estrellas to kind of watch the area after we had set up, and that area is known for being really, really windy. It was for Coldwater Rumble. You remember this. And I was staying in the store under a 20 by 20 tent. I was like, I'm just going to camp out. We'll kind of see how everything fares. If there's any wind issues, then I'll take care of it. Not a problem. We didn't weight down the 20 by 20 with enough water, with enough weight. And in the middle of the night, the entire tent lifted off the ground and shifted forward. And I felt like I was in like Oz, like I was Dorothy, and like the house was being swept up by a tornado. And immediately I ran outside and I opened Jamil's Suburban. He was sleeping in the car, and I said, the tent is flying away. And we raced out and got like 4 more 55-gallon barrels, started filling them immediately, like pinned down that tent.
Yeah.
I was holding, at some point I was actually holding on one of the legs, and it was still lifting me up and shifting forward. Like I was going for a ride. It was like a carousel. It was the nuttiest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Well, one of the things is we weren't supposed to stake in this ground because it was in a grass field and there's sprinkler heads. And I, of course, had busted one like the year before. So, and then like, you know, I love this kind of stuff. I mean, sorry. No,
it was an adrenaline rush. It was fun.
It's crazy, but it's like solving problems and like, okay, we got to figure out a solution. And this is literally survival. Like if the tent blows away, the race is done.
Right.
The bibs are in there. The whole the
registration,
whole operation, like the bibs would have just
gone.
been gone, and there would have been nothing. So it's like we cannot let this happen.
I have never seen you react so fast. Like your eyes opened, you sat up, you put your shoes on, you left the car. It was like this one big, like just swoop of just like, okay, let's go.
I forget. I know I went to the box truck. I don't know if it was like immediate because I probably knew. I was like, we need to get stakes in the ground now.
Yeah, you said we need to get stakes in the ground. You went to the box truck to get the stakes. I went and like we had one other volunteer, and both of us were holding on to the legs
until I could get a couple stakes in the ground.
And like with the full weight of my body, I was just like riding this thing like as it was shifting. It was the coolest thing. And I was like, and like as we were like filling the barrels, you were like RD life, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the thing. I think that's what it's funny because in those moments you kind of define yourself. And it's just, those are the most memorable things, even though they absolutely suck in the moment.
Oh,
and it's awful. And you just can't even believe this is happening. But you look back and you can laugh and kind of be like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but, and maybe that's, some people would just be like, I'm never doing this again. But I think for the right kind of person, it's like that.
Oh, it was an adrenaline rush.
That's why I love this job.
I was like, it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was so stoked to be where I was.
Yeah. You feel alive. It's a rush.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know if it's the most hilarious, but one of the most insane was at the Flagstaff Sky Race this last year, where I'm out marking. Literally, we've done everything for the race. It's all pretty dialed.
Yeah.
Packet pickup is done the night before the race. I'm going out just before sunset. I was marking the first mile of the course. Mm-hmm. Very tame type of thing. So just going out to mark it. I get up there to this junction, pretty important junction. So I was just marking up to there to double check the marking. It was marked earlier in the afternoon, just a few hours ago. Get up there. Not a single sign to be seen. And this is a critical junction with multiple distances merging together going up the hill. And we had vandalism. And I realized this at sunset. And I don't even think I had a light on me and no additional supplies. So Like, okay, this is going to be one of those moments. And you kind of get a little bit of the adrenaline going. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to have to come back out here tonight. So I had to go like back to the house, deal with some other issues. And I finally went back out to remarket at, I think, 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. And the thing is I didn't know how far it went. Like, how far down the rabbit hole does it go? And so I fixed that junction. But then I had to go check beyond that, and I start running down the trail, and there's ribbons on the ground, or there's no ribbons. And I go, I think, 3 miles, turn around. I get back at 2 in the morning.
4.
No. I get back at 2 in the morning to my car. And then, so I was confirming with the people that had marked it earlier in the day and showed me their Strava to prove like that we went right through there. And I noticed at the top of the mountain, there's a cutoff trail on Mount Eldon. They took the cutoff trail. They didn't go to the summit, which is the course goes to the summit. So I had to go fix that because we had to run the true course.
Yep.
So I get in my truck, and you can actually drive to the top, but it's about a 45-minute drive up like a crazy road up to 9,000 feet. So I'm already exhausted, tired. Drive this truck all the way to the top of the mountain. I get there at 3 in the morning, and I have to remark 2.5 miles of trail. And so I'm up there just like running, and the race starts at 5, or is it 5? 6.
Starts at 6, but like
pickup is at 5. And no, I had to be there with the truck at 5.
You had to be at the trailhead at 5.
At the trailhead at 5 with the truck. I was the guy driving the truck.
And we were leaving the house at 4.
Okay. So that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was on top of the mountain at 3:15.
Yeah.
Finishing marking this loop, running all out as hard as I could to get back to my truck, drive the 45 minutes down the mountain to get to the house. And I think I like roll in, put the keys down, pick up the other keys in like a single move as you guys are like waking up and like drinking a cup of coffee.
I was like exiting the house, ready to get in the car, and you had pulled up, you had the keys, you got in the box truck, and I was just like...
And I like took off.
I was like, the dude has not slept all night.
And rolled in at, before 5, whatever. We were set up by 5. Before the first runner got there, we were all set up.
We were there.
Course was totally remarked, 100% perfect.
And then you rallied and went and filmed.
Yeah, then I carried a big steady cam for 3 hours. Great. And then I did it again at the finish until that afternoon I collapsed. I think I collapsed on a folding table in the back of the box truck for like 2 hours.
Yeah, that happens.
They're like, where did he go?
Yeah. That's the weirdest, like, I think RDs will sleep in the weirdest places, in the most random spots.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's great. But yeah, and that's one of dozens of stories like that that I have experienced as a race director. Yeah. And I just call it ultra training because that's really what it is. I think it makes you a better ultra runner because you deal with these things and these are massive things that are affecting hundreds of people. And then you have a problem that only affects you. Right. And you think, well, this is nothing compared to what that was.
Right.
So,
I mean, it definitely helps with sleep depth.
That was quite the story.
That was a good one.
Brendan Bradford, 1B Bradfo. That's his username, his handle.
Schwa.
What's the proportion of races you direct compared to races you get to run?
Ooh.
What about for you?
I definitely direct more than I run. And I don't know the ratio. I think I maybe have like 12. Do I have like 12 or 13 races that I direct per year? And I think last year I was able to run 5. So
yeah, I think I usually average around 6 ultras per year. I think since I've been in the sport, maybe slightly more, but this year it might be actually a bit more. But that's because your Jubilee is directing about half of Airavata's events. Noah Doherty, who works for us, is directing the other half, and I've moved more into a support role for them and like a mentor, I guess, and working on other things as well in the company. So I'm kind of like, now I'm starting to get the fire burning for creating some new events again. So that's it's actually really fun.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked. So I might be directing a few more here this year, but I guess, obviously involved in producing over 30 events a year. So it's definitely directing a lot more. Have you, or do you ever run in your own races? For me, sparingly. This year has been more than ever because I've been running Noah's races that he directs. So I did 3 of them in the first month of the year, basically. But sometimes I jump into a short distance but it's few and far between because, I like running other people's events. I think it's fun and important to run your own if you have the right support systems in place.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine, I've never run the Javelina 100, never run Black Canyon. I have yet to run Whiskey Basin. Some of our more premier events, we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
We're getting close. I probably could have run Whiskey this weekend.
I think you probably could have run Whiskey.
Yeah.
And
but I just did Barkley, and I've got a couple races coming up, and I
hope you run Black Canyon next year.
Next year, huh?
Yeah, I really think.
Interesting.
Hopefully.
You heard it here first,
yeah.
folks. I don't know.
I would like to run those races.
Yeah, I really want to run both of those, Black Canyon, Whiskey. Ugh, I really want to do Whiskey Man so badly.
We've got something brewing in Flagstaff that I think I really.
The update?
I want to tackle someday. Yep.
Scariest incident you've encountered as an RD?
Oh. The scariest thing always for me is, when we have big remote races and you get word from your communications that something has gone wrong. There's a missing runner or an injured runner or, somebody has had a reaction to the heat or something like that. It's always, you kind of have to take a beat a little bit. And, race day for me is a lot of fun. I do a lot of entertaining, I'm in that mode on race day. But as soon as one of the communication volunteers pull me aside and say, we can't find this person, they have not checked in, it's past cutoff, your heart sinks. And it's real when something like that happens.
Sobers you up real quick.
It really does. That happens with our big remote races like Mogollon Monster. It's such a dangerous race. Trail running has its hazards anyway, and runners, you hope, are prepared for the terrain, for the remote nature of the race, for the inclement weather that may happen. It's really there's a responsibility that you have to have as an ultra runner to even toe the line. But, stuff happens and things go wrong. And in the middle of the night, you take a wrong turn and you get lost and you go off course. And then you're wandering in the woods for, seemingly hours without support, without communication, without water. Something happens. Luckily, we've always been able to, we have enough resources and we have enough support where we're able to correct, anything like that. But it's always, just a big ball of anxiety just comes in you're really swallowing hard because just the worst things go through your mind. So.
Okay, a little bit of a lighter question. Jared Dibus asks, who decides what foods are offered at an aid station? Is it the aid station director or the race directors? I guess for us, it's kind of mostly us as the directors.
Yeah.
But, and that's just comes from, we do so many events, I think, that we have kind of a standard
groove.
menu, and we have a system down for what we offer, and it's consistent. It's kind of like I think someone compared it as it's like a Starbucks. You kind of you know what you're going to get. If you come to Airavata,
Yeah.
you're going to get this stuff. But then I think some of our more established events, Haviland 100, some of the others, we're starting to develop these cultures of volunteers every year that they're starting to do more and extras. And I think we're kind of consciously moving towards even budgeting in some portion of it for them where they can create their own menu items that are unique to their aid station. I really like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of my answer.
Especially like Haviland 100, like if it's, it's an established race and there's some creativity that we allow the aid captains. And
Thomas Bowling at Windex42, what do you do with all of the fold-up chairs people leave behind?
We keep them. We have a collection now.
We reuse them.
Yeah.
So we have dozens of these now, and
they're awesome.
We just bring them out, and those things, they're usually pretty cheap, so they eventually do break and wear out, but we usually put them around our campfires.
I mean, it's really nice, yeah, because it's kind of added a little bit of like this community feel. Like at Black Canyon, there was we had this lovely little fire ring, and we had maybe like a dozen chairs around this fire, and it was all like discarded camp chairs. It was fantastic. So yeah, we use them.
Keep bringing those chairs, peeps.
For sure. Yeah, drop them off.
And follow-up question, how do you deal with people not reading the race document, showing up to a coupless race, for instance, without a vessel or handheld?
I mean, it's always going to happen. You put all of this information out and, people show up and they're unprepared. Or
some people read it to a T.
Some people they do.
And it eases their mind, I think. Especially people if they have like some anxiety about the event or some concerns, when you do put out that extra information, it's awesome and it really eases you. But some people,
they show up and it's just kind of like,
And I think a lot of times we've evolved, and I think we try and make it as easy as possible to kind of show up and just go.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work out for you.
No. And surprisingly, and I didn't know this, cause for me, like I have to prepare. I have to like go through a whole list of, and then read all of the documents and read all of the information and be as prepared as I can be. But I think that's just like maybe my nature. There are some people that like show up, sign up race day with a water bottle in hand and just like, hey, I'm going to go and run 100 miles.
Sometimes that doesn't turn out well.
No, it doesn't always. But like, it's amazing to me that people even like
attempt it.
That's their, like, hey, I'm just going to do this for the day. It's awesome.
Kristen Winger at Chris199. How do you decide the swag? Shirts, buffs, jackets, medals, etc. You guys have some awesome logos and would love to know how this part of the process works.
Cool. Good question. All of our swag, the way we decide it really is we, have a budget that we work within. So there's always that factor. But we try to be as creative as we can be. For example, like
for our audio listeners, we're showing off the finisher glasses for the Whiskey Basin. Tell me about these, because I wasn't involved in this. So we have actually 2 different types of glasses.
Yeah.
Tell us about these.
So, for our races, you can expect at Airavata to get a kind of a finisher's glass. It's really nice because you get to actually reuse your reward and be reminded of that race. But for the Whiskey Basin, I wanted a little something different. So we actually, because we're sponsored by Thumb Butte Distillery, we actually have a whiskey glass, like a tumbler. That's really pretty cool. And then if you measure it, it's actually a 2-finger pour right at the basin of that whiskey logo. It's kind of a cool thing. So put a little on the rocks and like pour it to that whiskey bottle, and you got a perfect 2-finger pour. And then, we work with Granite Mountain Brewery. For our beer garden, we have a lot of people hang out at this race, which is really exciting. And, just kind of encourage people to take their finisher award into the beer garden and grab a beer. We also have a new beer glass. It's a kind of a different shape. It's a rastal. Like, it's interesting.
Do people get to choose?
They get to choose. They get to choose between their beer glass and or a whiskey glass.
while supplies last.
While supply, yeah, finish first.
And then the 88K, is this sacrilegious? Having a buckle for an 88K?
I think it's pretty cool, actually. It's kind of a funky distance anyway, so to kind of like...
I love the 88. I love the 88K. I don't know what it is about it.
It's such a funky distance. It's such a cool thing.
It's a cool looking number. It's just like...
Yeah. Hello.
The beer's hitting me now.
Yeah, I think it's cool. You run 88K, you run an entire loop around the Prescott Valley, and
buckle up.
You get a buckle at the end, so try it out.
Eugene Sudormoricane at Flippy Chippy Nip.
Best Twitter handle ever.
Everybody, please go follow at Flippy Chippy Nip and tell him the Jam and Jube sent you.
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Flippy Chippy Nip.
Yep. Is it difficult getting timely responses from government officials, rangers, etc.? What do you see are the barriers to entry for first race directors wanting to put on an ultra?
It kind of depends on sometimes the time of year, like what land agencies you're working with. You really kind of have to know the area. One of the difficult things with Whiskey Basin is, one of the wonderful things is that area actually supports golden eagles. And there is a particular nesting time that, they try to protect and make sure that like mating season, nesting season for the golden eagle remains undisturbed. So we actually have to permit after that nesting season is ended. And really every year Whiskey Basin is right on that cusp. So like right when that nesting season ends is when we run the Whiskey Basin. So, and it's awesome because you also see golden eagles on course.
And that goes with like our flag sky race as well. We're working within, there's a lot of things that you don't know about ahead of time that you need to work around. Wildlife issues. And I would say also depends on your relationship with the land agency, and the people in charge. Once you get to know them, and some of them are really amazing people, and you can, sometimes they're texting you back and forth, like, hey, how's the event going? Or let us know if you need anything. And that's cool. But sometimes it's especially difficult, I think, establishing yourself.
You have to build that trust.
Yeah. And I would say, don't be discouraged if you don't hear back. But you may not hear back. Yeah. I've spent literally years sometimes on ideas and concepts. Whiskey Basin is a perfect example. We wanted to put this race on in 2010, 2011. We started organizing fat-ass runs to try and build some community support around the Prescott Circle Trail. And we didn't actually put on this event until 2016. And it's just now this year getting to the point of being a rather large race. So it's really been, 9 years in the making for this one. Yep. I still feel like I'm working on Flagstaff right now, which has been that long, if not longer, trying to get a premier ultra marathon going in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is a mecca for ultra runners. And it still doesn't feel like there's a killer ultra marathon in Flagstaff. So, but that is in the works. Folks.
That's in the works.
We have a lot of years of putting different events on, and sometimes it just takes a while, and you've got to work around. You don't know about all. I didn't know that I couldn't put an ultra on the trails I wanted to in Flagstaff in June, because there's wildlife things, and then there's fire season, and then there's monsoons, and you kind of learn about all these things as you go down the process, and or you have a wilderness area where you want to go. So there's all these things that come up, and you have to work within these parameters that are set out in front of you. And that's kind of my experience.
And establish that relationship.
So I would say the barriers to entry is no one knows who you are, and you have no track record when you first start out. So you have to begin to build that trust. And you can do that in different ways. If you'd like some consulting on that, hit me up. I don't know. Let's see. Scott Baldwin, he actually made a multi-part tweet list for us with many questions. So let's try and cover a few. I don't know if we'll get to all of them.
All right.
Scott Baldwin at Benry. Number 1, can you actually make a living being an RD?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's not all that we do, but like we're doing a podcast right now.
Sometimes that's all that we do.
That is
during race week. That is all that I do.
That is our main business.
Yeah.
Like we are an event management production company. Yep. That's what Airavata Running does. And, there's several organizations or individuals or companies like that around the world that do that. It's not easy. You have to work really hard. But I mean, it is possible to do that. Number 2, is it mandatory that you own a truck?
No.
I mean, you can rent, but you at some point will likely amass equipment.
Yes.
And you will need to transport that equipment to and from places. So,
I mean, we've rented trucks before, and I mean, certainly, and vans, like, it depends on the equipment that you have and what you're hauling and where you need to be. Sometimes you need a 4x4 Jeep to go up a very steep mountain to deliver water.
Kendall last year, I had
just
my Suburban was like having issues, so I had to literally rent a Jeep to get water up the mountain.
Yeah.
So sometimes it ain't cheap, but you do what you got to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
3, where do you store all the stuff between races?
We have
here.
We have a warehouse.
We have an office, but I mean, this company, I started by storing things in my shed and at my house, in my room, then at my parents' house and in their garage, and then my uncle's garage, and then a small 14-foot box truck that was parked at my parents' house. So, and then once it hit a point where it took over 3 rooms in my parents' house and their garage and my uncle's garage and this box truck, we finally got a warehouse with very little office. The office space itself was about as small as this conference room we're in right now. Mm-hmm. And then we graduated about 2 years ago to this space. So we're in about 4,000 square feet with 3 of that warehouse and 1 of that office. And that's where we're at currently. And we have a lot of stuff.
We have a lot
it's packed.
of stuff.
We also have a lot going on. And I wish we had less stuff. We are not minimalist.
No, we are not.
But we also put on events that sometimes have 800 people at them and go on for 6 days. So we have to have a lot of stuff. So I'm like in selling mode right now. I'm like, if anyone needs to rent some stuff, DM me. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to skip around a little bit. 8. What are the things you wish racers did better that would make your life easier?
Study the course.
I would agree with that. Number 9. What are your top 3 races you both wish you could RD?
Oh, are you kidding? Wait, top 3, like anywhere?
Sure.
Oh, man. That's a great question, and I don't know.
I feel like I just want to tell you about races I want to run.
I know. That's the thing. Like, I kind of want to maybe run the race and then maybe RD it. I mean, honestly, dream come true for the Javelina 100. Like, I think about that race year round and how to make it better and how to...
So you're living the dream, literally.
Man, that race is awesome. It is hilarious. It is so, so exciting. There is shit that happens at that race that no other race can top. I mean, really. It's banana time, and I just love it.
I think it would be fun to RD and this is impossible, but maybe like a race on the whole Arizona Trail.
Ooh.
I mean, it could never happen, but I'm just going to throw that out there. That'd be so cool.
Nice.
Joseph Farr, who I know is an avid supporter of us because I see him retweeting everything at Farr_Joseph. I would like to know how difficult it would be to become an RD. What do you need to do? I would like to put on my own race someday. Thank you. And Jubilee, are you letting people track your training for your first 100? Whew, that was a lot.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it's a spectrum, I think.
Yeah.
If you're brand new and you want to direct a race, maybe start by just organizing a group run
Fat
and
asses.
go from there.
Yeah.
A group run, and then maybe a fat ass where you have a couple people with an aid station.
Yep.
And just test the waters, see if you like the organization aspect of it, and or volunteer at races. You know, offer, just be like, hey, I mean, you could come and volunteer with us.
And there's so many different aspects of the race that you can actually volunteer with us, from like the start line to every aid station to setup to marking to breakdown, like all of it.
The one thing that is always a huge asset to any race director, they're always looking for volunteers. I think that's totally. Wherever you live, there's got to be a race nearby.
Volunteer,
just get involved. That's how I got started. I love the sport so much. I started volunteering.
Yep.
And trust me, if you say, hey, I'll do anything, you will have no shortage of stuff thrown in your lap.
That is a true story. That is exactly how I got this job. I came and knocked on your door and said, I will do anything. Please put me to work. 2 years later.
Boom. Great. Scott Coomer, at Scotty Coomer. What's the most memorable moment or moments you've had?
Just in general?
Maybe the top 3 moments that stand out. That's the question. I don't have no more context than that. He, of course, Scotty Coomer is, of course, the host of the 10 Junk Miles podcast.
Very, very nice.
Shout out.
One of the most memorable, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, so many, but one of my favorite, just going back to Javelina 100. Okay. I cannot stress how much of a dream this race is for me, because, you know, I started as a volunteer at the finish line of the Javelina 100. I watched runners come in and, you know, meet their goals, break down, give me the sweatiest, biggest hugs of their life. And like, I cried with them. I thought they were like rock stars. Every single runner that came through there was a rock star. I saw Gordy Ainsley finish and qualify for Western States at Javelina 100. And then 2 years later, I am the race director of this race. I am standing on top of my house. I live in a very large truck, by the way. I am standing on the top of my house overlooking 700 runners about to start this race, and I am counting down this race as the RD. Like, I had chills and I got really emotional. I couldn't believe that I was there and I'm the RD and I am standing on top and watching all of these runners about to toe the line of this incredible race that I witnessed for the first time 2 years prior. And like, just over and over in my head, like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, that was just incredible for me.
That's awesome. I'll give you 3 moments. One of the hardest races we put on the across the years at Nardini Manor, I think in 2010, when we first took it over, and we put it on there with the Rubliks own the property and they weren't on site. So they trusted us to put it on. We had horrendous weather. The first day we were sweeping water and mud off the track, and winds were similar to our story earlier, about to blow our tent away. I'm out there with stakes and ropes. And once that 24 hours of rain moved through, which all, by the way, he had lights installed around the track. They all shorted out. We were hanging lanterns and Christmas lights. It was insane. And then it like swept through like 18 degrees. Weather came in. So it was just like, we were just like, how did we survive that? And now that we did, we can do anything. And that was cool. Next one This just this popped into my head. It was just because it was so ridiculous. And I probably shouldn't even be saying this because it's like someone had a question about liability. And it's like sometimes like you just do what you have to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
And to make it happen.
Yeah, it's a true story.
And that's what you have to do in this sport sometimes. Like, no, like the liability or whatever. Just get the job done. No, I shouldn't say that. But no, but seriously.
Like my eyes are like, oh my God.
My lawyer is like, what are you doing? No, but sometimes you just got to get the job done. And I now follow all the rules to the T.
It's true.
Yeah,
I do know some of the stories. Like they were told to me, like sometimes Jamil just had to do what he had to do.
Well, so we had, I think we had a shuttle breakdown. We had to shuttle people to and from the start line of the Javelina 100. And if you were one of these people, this would be funny if you like tweeted at me and been like, I remember that. I was one of these people. But we, I think we had these shuttle buses. People had to park 3 miles away, drive up to the race start. So when you finish the race, you hop back in the shuttle and go back. It's all going to work out perfectly, except the vans have to go get refueled at some point, and then one breaks down. So then you have no shuttles, and you have a line of people that gets longer and longer and longer, and they all just finish the race, and they want to get back to their car. And, like, no buses were coming. And so I just grabbed my brand new box truck I just bought, and it was empty. And I just like, all right, I will get all of you back to your car now. And so I just I help them all into the box truck, and then I drive like 5 miles per hour through the park, and then I deliver everyone off. We might have to cut this out of the story.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it was a very long. Be cut. It was a very, very long time ago.
So, anyways, we absolutely would not do that today.
No,
because we would have plenty of shuttle vans. But
correct.
But that's where I came from as an old school RD, brought up in the old school ultra running culture. Like sometimes you just get it done, and people were actually really thankful for the ride.
Yeah,
they were so stoked for the ride.
You're exhausted, your legs hurt, you just want to get back to your car.
I was using the lift gate. I was like lifting people up and down like that could not even take a step. And it was the most ridiculous thing. And this is at like 2 a.m, of course. And so that's like, it's just, I mean, sometimes if you're at a remote aid station, people are going to pile in the car. Like, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And it's safer than being in the elements, you know?
Well, yeah, or like kicking them down the road for the next 3 miles. Like, hey, you're on your own. Like, people wouldn't come back.
So that was 2 moments. And I don't know. This other one, just like in general, just witnessing ultra running history in the present moment. Now it may not seem like a big deal, but I think when I or other people read about some of these stories, looking back on it 20, 30, 40 years from now, we'll be like, man, that was a golden era of something where, you know, Zach Bitter runs an 11:41 and I'm there to witness it at the race I helped create and directed. Wow. Or like Camille Herron sets a record, or, you know, Pat Reagan almost breaks 13 hour. Like, to be there and witness this stuff
it's so cool.
Is of legends.
Yeah.
Like even now it's legendary, but it could or will become so much more so. I mean, imagine witnessing, you know, the 11:28 world record.
It gives you goosebumps. It does.
One of the Ann Trayson victories at Western States, or the epic battles between her and Tim Tweetmeyer. If you witness that, how cool. And even more so if it was maybe at an event that you conceived and then brought into existence and fruition with all of your hard work. Super cool. Or just seeing Javelina 100 grow from what it is, or what it was, which was a popular small race, to the largest 100 in North America. Very cool. Yeah. I want to get to a couple more, or should we wrap it up soon here? Let's see. Stan Lake, he runs a lot of our events. Lake_Stanford.
Yeah.
Do you reach out to sponsors during the first year of an ultra race event? What do these sponsorship monies pay for?
Oh my gosh, so much.
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah.
I a lot of times don't reach out the first year because there's so much to worry about. And I'm just like worrying about establishing the event and figuring out the operations and logistics. If you can get sponsors on board, I think it obviously can help, but it's also another thing to juggle and, put time into. And I think some events must have them to survive. I don't think it's a necessity though to have sponsors all the time for events. And I think what do the sponsorship dollars pay for? It just depends on the sponsor. Sometimes they have specific requests or things in mind, or sometimes you come together and come up with ideas. Sometimes it just goes to your budget overall and it helps.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a sponsorship isn't always monetary. It can be, a promotional sponsorship where
Awards.
or sometimes they're helping donate something that reduces your costs. So it's always good. And Best D75, do you confront people running a race without a bib? What is the age-old solution to pinning on a bib? There has to be a better way. I don't know that we have the problem of people. Oh, wow, I didn't know there was more. Have you seen people running our races without bibs? It's now and again.
Like bandit races?
Yeah.
Racers?
I feel like there might be people like reusing their old bibs, and I feel like if you get caught, like it's going to be game over, and we're getting really like a lot more savvy.
It's not really a great idea to even try. So, but as far as pinning on a bib,
I would confront someone. I don't have a problem with that. We've confronted people who have cheated at our races, so
absolutely,
we don't have an issue with that.
I do not.
Pinning it on, I like to fold up my number around the number and pin it to my shorts a lot of times because I change my shirt or I don't want to run with my shirt. I don't know if pinning's that bad really, but there are other solutions.
I do. I fold mine around, like if it's chipped and encoded, then I fold it around that, so I make sure that it's red when I go over the timing. But it's always on the front of my person, so it's not. Yeah. Don't pin it on the back of your shirt or on your hat. Yeah, or even on your pack.
That's old school, but please don't do it.
Yeah.
Ed Chowderheads, I know that he was really active in the steep chat I did, so I want to get to his question. And he's getting right down to business.
Okay.
He ain't messing around.
Shoot.
I'd like to know $$. He wants to show me the money, I guess.
I don't know what that means.
So he asks, how profitable is race directing? How do you determine how much to charge for a race?
Right.
So those are the first couple questions. I don't really want to talk about finances necessarily. It's a tough business, I will say.
Yeah, it is. It is tough. And honestly, please know that any of your race registration fees, there is a reason to it. There's a lot that goes into planning, whether it be, land agency fees, permitting fees, all of the swag, all of the nutrition and supply, if we are renting anything, all of that comes from within race registration fees.
I think we try and really maximize your value.
We do.
That's important to us.
Yes.
And for me as, one of the owners of Airavata, we love this sport. I want to make a living at this, and this is my heart and soul. And we employ quite a few people, I think more than any other ultra organization in the country, trail and ultra.
For sure.
Up there.
Yep.
And when you pay us your entry fees, you're paying for a lot of people to eat and live.
Yeah.
They get to do what they love to do in this sport, and I think that's really an amazing thing. We pay our taxes. I don't know that all races do, but we submit our monthly transaction privilege taxes to the county, cities
state,
of Arizona. Yeah. So you're supporting supporting the cities here, and you're supporting the park systems. And that improves them. You're also helping my kid to eat, and I thank you for that, and helping my dreams come true, and I'm thankful for that very much so. And we have like 6 full-time and I think 20 part-time employees. So everyone is working, and we want to make a difference and make a successful small to medium-sized business that has a heart and soul and cares about people. And we hope to be profitable, because that means we can keep doing this, but it's a struggle. Like, I'll be very honest, it's hard sometimes. So
it is.
We're
not, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm very, I live in a truck.
How do you, but we love it.
I love it though.
And we want to keep doing it. So please come run our races. How do you determine how much to charge for a race? It just depends on the event. I think we have a nice range where we have some really affordable events. We also have free group runs and training runs.
Yeah.
That cost you nothing, and we like to mix that in. We're not always charging you, and I've heard some people, all these upcharges for the Javelin 100. It's like, that event is expensive to put on, and
it is.
Also, we're providing additional services at that one, like tent rentals and setups, and that takes man hours and people to set up. And oh my gosh, how many truck trips and rentals?
There are just hundreds of hours race week,
and it's like
over a couple,
really
even
hard work.
Over a couple of days. There's just like, there's so many hours of people work, like just time going into that.
And the production level of that event is high, and we want to make it higher. So,
I want to make it just bananas.
Like, we want you to come there and be like, I can't believe that this happened this weekend. It seemed like a dream.
I do. Yeah. I want people to leave that race and be like, I ran 100 miles during Halloween, but like, what? Like, you would not believe the bananas that went on. Like,
and definitely, it's not always a cost plus model. Sometimes it is market based too. If we have an extremely popular race that's selling out or on the verge of selling out, and it's a high production level, we want to match that level of experience if we can too.
Right.
And we also have a lot of really quite affordable races. You see, there's quite a few expensive events out there, but there's, like I said, there's a range and there's a mix, and we like to provide volunteer opportunities too. So,
and that's the thing. Yeah. Like our volunteer opportunities, it allows you to like kind of feed, your habit of running. That's how I got into running Airavata events. Is I paid all of those events through my volunteer services. So, and
some events are just, the facility fees are very expensive.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
So, and they're all a little bit unique. And so, when there's buses and shuttles involved too, that can all be a part of it.
Yeah.
He's getting real deep with this one. Are there any ethical questions you must ask yourself when deciding to turn a profit versus keeping a race accessible? I think we try and do both and balance it. Yeah. But we need to turn a profit so we can keep doing this at the end of the day.
That's the thing.
And pay our people, and our people want to grow and keep continuing to do this. So ultimately, that is hopefully what we can do.
I think. And
he specifically says probably applies more towards races like Western States. Western States is a supply and demand. They could easily be charging over $1,000 an entry right now, and they're not. Yeah. And people would pay it in a second.
They would probably pay it,
So they would probably pay $1,500. I don't know what the market would bear on that one, but and let's close it out with our good friend Zangray50 on Twitter at Joe Galopi. That's funny.
What's up, Joe? RD, yeah.
He asks, "Are you worried about market saturation?" That's like a higher level one.
Yeah, we've talked about it like through like the previous podcast when we said,
state of the sport.
State of the sport. We've got, where 10, even 20 years ago, there was only a few ultra runs out there, and now there are Like, you have your choice. You have your pick of any week. Pick any weekend. And there are half a dozen 50Ks, 50 milers, 100 milers out there for you to choose.
I mean, I'd say there is quite a bit of saturation. I mean, even our own events, sometimes we think
have,
about it.
We have 30 events a year. 33?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to cannibalize our own events.
No.
So when we do, like, we have starting this weekend, we have 4 weekends in a row with events, and there's other ultras going on. Like Zane Grey is going on on the same day as one of our events, but we try and balance ours. We try and look at what else is going on in the calendar. It's hard because we have so many events, and but I know Zane Grey sold out this year. I'm pretty sure it was pretty close. I think it was like 175 people signed up, but we have a mix up in our types. So like we have our run up north this weekend. The next weekend it's down here in Phoenix, and it's a hot race by a lake, and then we have a night run, and then we have a fixed time event. So
all very different experiences, all very different races.
It's tough because like the calendar is pretty full, but then more people are getting into the sport, or sometimes you volunteer at a race or support your significant other, and then you want to run a race the next weekend. So, or there's an area which doesn't really have any races yet. So it's just a mix. And I think kind of what guides me, and we're unique because we can be more fluid because we have so many events and things. We could try something and then delete something out if we wanted to. And we do that from time to time.
Yeah.
We've put on events one time and never did them again. And we're probably going to do that in the next few years. We might, abandon some races and start some new ones up and see if maybe one will replace an event. It's possible. So,
but I mean, I think like right now, if we're worried about not necessarily market saturation, like we try to make our events unique, and we are, established enough now that we can really focus on the experience of a race and kind of the little nuances that make that race something that you want to revisit year after year.
Cool. I think with that, we're going to close this one down. This was actually really fun.
That was really fun.
And I hope it was insightful for you guys out there. It was fun taking your questions.
Yeah.
And if you guys have follow-up ones, feel free to tweet me or contact me, message me, whatever.
Don't tweet me. I probably haven't.
And she's busy.
I haven't seen my Twitter account tweeting the tweets.
Come on.
For like over a year. It's been bad.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Trail Currents podcast.
Woo.
And thanks once again to our sponsor, Squirrel's Nut Butter. Please nutter your butts. Yeah. I just made that
That's
up.
really
butter your nuts.
Yeah. I always say there's one lube for Jube, and that's probably just as inappropriate.
And there's rumors of a new size?
The family lube. Just,
the big tub.
The big tub.
Go on over to squirrelsnutbutter.com. Use code TCPSNB for 25% off through the end of May. Trying to think if there's anything else. Please let us know. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you are watching, or go subscribe on any of our audio channels. You can get this podcast every week. Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and now Spotify. See you guys next time around.
Later.